Okay, so I know we've been busy, guys, and you guys have had snow days and a bunch of other stuff that, is kind of a mixed blessing. Snow days are great when you're in second or third grade, but when you're a senior in high school, it's like, I got crap to do. I have to get out of this place,
It's true.
So anyhow, what I would like to do today with you guys in the time that we have, I'll bring you up to date with the hearing, which is on Valentine's Day, Tuesday. We'll talk about the handout that I received. Thank you very much. I'll ask if you're going to have a PowerPoint or not. I'll ask if you selected a panel. And then with the balance of our time, I'd like to do a drill with the panel on what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, okay? So you'll actually talk to me like I'm the chair of the committee, and we'll walk through all that, okay?
Perfect.
All righty. So first off.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. I did send you a preliminary PowerPoint as well.
Okay.
So it's in rough draft form.
Yeah.
Very rough.
It's a work in progress.
Okay. So that's fine, but I need it like Monday. I want the committee to have it in advance of the hearing so that the chair and the members are prepped and can ask you constructive questions.
I will send that off on Monday.
Fabulous.
We'll have it done. And then the information sheet you want, or is that good enough to go right now? Do you want any changes?
If it's good enough for me, if it's good enough for you guys, I would put on the top or bottom of that document a contact name, phone number, and email for whoever the composer is, whether it's you or a member of the class.
Okay, we can do that.
All righty. So let's go first. Are you guys the panel that will testify in the bill?
We are half of it. The other half is in next period.
Okay, so who do I have in front of me now?
I'm Lizzie Ben Susan.
Lizzie or Liz? When
Lizzie.
ZZIE?
Yes.
Last name?
Ben Susan, BENSUSSEN.
SUB as in boy, N as in Norman, SSEN?
Yeah.
Sebastian?
Sorry. It's Ben Susan, BEN.
Oh, Ben Susan. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because as the chairman of the committee, I'll be confused by your last name and I'll ask you to pronounce it. And you, sir.
My name's Henry Arnold.
Okay. And you, sir.
I'm not one of the four that's on the.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Okay. So let me walk you through. So we have a hearing at 1:30 Tuesday afternoon in the Senate Early Learning K-12 Committee. You are the fourth bill on the agenda, so you'll have to sit through about 45 minutes of other people's stuff. Generally speaking, what you will see is the following. The committee will come to order. Today's agenda will be the following bills. They'll tick off 55. When they get to 5571, staff will present the analyst. So the staff committee attorney will come and say, 5571 is the bill regarding composting of school waste. If given the facts that we give and others and whatever research, they may actually say statewide we estimate, 15,000 metric tons worth of school food is put into landfill versus being recycled. The purpose of this bill is to compost it. The language speaks to whether it should be a statewide program or whether school districts should work with their local waste management companies, et cetera, et cetera. And then if there's a physical note, they will attach a physical note. The physical note is how much the item they think will cost. That's why on your homework assignment, I asked you guys to try to figure out. I do know a guy in Olympia who says that if you compost food, you will save money on garbage. You just will, because you're changing the amount of flow of waste going into the system and you're keeping it in another place. So if you have any information from the district, that would be helpful to the committee. And then I will then call up the panel of Lizzie Ben Susan, Henry Arnold, John Doe, and Jane Doe, and the four of you will come up. You should self-select who goes first, second, third, fourth. That person comes up to the microphone, and then you go through your notes and presentation, or you go through the handout, then second, then third, then fourth. You should obviously talk about the environmental club activities and how it has worked. You should talk about your relationship with the principal and the administration, if they're supportive, the city of Kirkland, and also Waste Management, your garbage company, if that's who does your garbage. And you should talk about what you've learned in this process and why you think it should be done statewide, or districts should have the opportunity to do it statewide. Okay, so that's kind of the basics here. Have you guys prepared notes for the hearing yet, or you're working on that over the weekend?
Yeah, well, we crafted the PowerPoint that we're gonna kind of use and then obviously elaborate off of that. We're gonna work on it this weekend though to polish it up and kind of have a more clean presentation on it.
Okay. Stand by. I'm looking at it now.
So
Okay.
my question, if you wrote, are they going to actually have the PowerPoint during this presentation, like being presented and shown, or is this just all oral?
No, you guys. I would recommend you guys run the PowerPoint
Okay.
for a variety of reasons. One, it's pretty and shiny, and it's like kittens. Legislators are like kittens. You give it a laser pointer, they'll follow it around. But seriously, it also from an education, from a teacher standpoint, and I do teach at college level, I think it's a really good communication school for you guys to work on. I mean, you went to the trouble of creating it. You guys can then also, there are 7 panels. You guys can rotate around or take turns, or you can have one person act as a spokesperson for the panel, and the other members of the panel then are available for certain aspects of questions. But no, I like this a lot. And once it's final, Michael, please tell me, and I will send it to committee staff so they'll have it in advance of the hearing, and they'll load it onto their computer.
Okay, we'll do.
All righty, we are at 13 minutes. Questions from you guys?
So what are the most persuasive things you think that we can include in the PowerPoint, or like the most important things to include?
I think there are 2 main categories of topics of importance. I think the first one is potential savings to the school district and administration. I think the second biggest set of arguments lie into both the environmental, better planet, and also, frankly, the ability to create an educational program for students in composting, because it allows, it's not just the environmental. You guys will learn a lot about the administration of a miniature program, and also the opportunity. You guys have learned a lot in the environmental club. I'm sure you learned a lot about garbage collection and how waste management views the problem versus how the school district views the problem. Garbage collection is within MSOC. It's within administrative costs of the school. So it's inside the state's big pot of money of things they give school districts. Levies, we do have levies for maintenance and operations, but they're generally not how all school districts fund 100% of their admin costs. So understanding that, if you guys can take a moment and understand, how you're saving money, and then also if you can also demonstrate how this program actually makes things better, not just for lunch selections, but also for the students themselves. I'm looking towards the back of the classroom. I mean, if you guys are, as a universe of students, are like totally comfortable with composting your school waste and you think this is a good program, it's really something that you should explain why you think it's important. And then the third and most important thing is you should, like any speech, I'm a speech teacher when I'm not doing this. So practice, practice, practice. Go through this a few times. Be comfortable with it. Some of you are naturally able to talk on the fly. Others of you that will talk will be writing everything that you're going to say. I will speak to that group second. If you have to write your stuff down and go off prepared text, go ahead and print it up and make it presentable for a teacher, for the committee, and we will submit written comments to the class. To the rest of the class that's not going to be on the panel, I do recommend, if you have written comments to add, that you coordinate with Mr. Dawson, and you guys go ahead and create a flight of written testimonials about the program. If there are students that are not in the class that are doing the composting class, reach out to them and have them email you something about it so that you have a pretty deep stack of support throughout the high school. Does that make sense? All right, next question.
So I think you already answered this, but what committee are we presenting to?
We're going to be before the Senate Early Learning and K through 12 Committee, or the Senate Education Committee.
Okay, cool. Sorry, you can go.
And then one of our main concerns for the bill is in Eastern Washington. We've tried to find what kind, composting facilities in Eastern Washington, and they're more plentiful over here instead of, so we're having trouble thinking if we should have it statewide or maybe just districts, because it'd be hard to force places that don't have very good access to composting facilities to do this. So we're not sure what kind of like solutions we should provide for that.
Well, that's why you're going to see from the committee, if they amend the bill, that they're going to want a local opt-in so that the district decides. And you are correct. There are fewer composting needs in Eastern Washington, frankly, because the metropolitan areas themselves are spread out. I mean, when you think, let's think about this for a moment. You have kind of a crescent of cities: Wenatchee, Ellensburg, Yakima, and then Richland, Pasco, Kennewick. And then you can kind of add now Walla Walla. So you have this curve along US 97. You have a second big city, which is Spokane. And Spokane's metro is nearly 700,000 people. But surrounding them, Spokane has a waste to energy incineration plant that it uses, as well as it ships landfill. And that's the other thing. A lot of jurisdictions actually load their garbage on trains and ship it to Arlington, Oregon, where it is in a huge regional landfill. So you have, and I think to answer your question best, Lizzie, is the following. It's like, we want to provide the opportunity and the program for schools to do this, because like it or not, schools are waste generators and need to compost. And they must, and then the second statement after that along the lines is, we also need to create programs that are going to work in Lake Washington as well as Wenatchee, as well, and as in Seattle, as well as Spokane, So that's, when you write your response, one Eastern Washington city, one Western Washington city, one big, one small on each example. So you can prove to the committee that you've given some thought to how you would deploy this program and how it would work.
So should that be a part of their presentation, kind of like concerns or frequently asked questions and like provide solutions to, like, we realize that these might be some barriers to our bill, so here are some solutions we have towards
Yes.
barriers?
Yeah, and a member of the panel should be assigned to handle that. So that's what that person speaks to. So, the first person introduces the topic and the bill. The second person, it describes what's happened with the environmental club. The third person speaks to possible, FAQ, overcoming issues. And then the fourth person bats cleanup and summarizes.
Perfect.
So how long should our presentation be, and like how much time do we have for that, and then how much time for questions will like the senators ask us questions?
That's not a hard and fast rule. I would assume that your total time up there will be 20 minutes, of which you guys should try to keep your comments to 2 minutes each. And then you'll have questions and answers for the balance of your time.
Okay. Do you guys have any other questions?
So like when we're focusing on because like a big part of the PowerPoint we have in the later parts is the amount of money we're gonna be saving through this program. Should we be focusing on the broad, just like statewide savings, or should we just focus on like individual parts of like?
You should focus primarily on local savings because those numbers are provable.
Okay.
Potential statewide savings, leave that to the experts and say, this is what we know here. We think you could save money in any school district with this program. But again, that's why we want local school districts to opt in. But I always tell clients that if you're going to talk about savings or money, make sure that your numbers are hard and true. Don't make them up. I mean, we have the federal government. I really want to keep this an alternate fact-free zone.
True.
That little two-word thing's not going away, is it? I mean, that's a real issue. Okay, we are at 5 minutes. Other questions?
I think we're all questioned out for this bill.
Okay.
But people.
No, the House companion has not been scheduled, and I will talk to Mr. Dawson about whether or not some of you are making a return trip, because the Juanita High School class has a composting bill as well.
Oh.
Okay. Good.
Thieves.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
if that hearing comes and you guys are still in term, I will sit down with Mr. Dawson and figure out, if nothing else, how to electronically connect you to the hearing that day.
Okay.
Cool.
That might be best, yeah, because logistically, it might be hard to go down again financially as well.
Well, the good news,
You can check
they're hearing your bill. So they're hearing the Lake Washington bill. So that's all we're going to talk about is how awesome Lake Washington High School is, how fantastic my panelists are, and how surprisingly awesome Mr. Dawson is.
Surprisingly.
Come on.
Surprisingly.
All right.
So do you guys have any more questions about what your specific task is?
No.
So you talked about more testimonials. Is that best, like one testimonial per piece of paper and just come down with a huge stack of papers? Or just like get a bunch of like statements or quotes or testimonials from students and then me just put it all on one sheet of paper
Or 3 to 5, if you have a bunch, 3 to 5 pages, and then also have an electronic version ready to ship to the committee.
Okay, I can do that.
I mean, that also increases the class participation on this to a full team instead of, the 4 guys up front and then everybody else,
Yeah.
You're all coming down for a reason, but I think all of you should have some ownership in this. So please, the rest of the class, if you're not on the panel, please think hard about something to add, and Mr. Dawson will bird dog it on that end.
Okay, that I can do.
All righty. If, I don't know what else to do. We are at 3 minutes and 40. If you have nothing else, the only gift I can give you is some of your time back if you have other stuff to do.
Or do you want to, we had a question about kind of off topic, but so our state obviously was pretty big in the federal court Trump travel ban case. What are the hearings in Olympia? What are people talking about down there about the whole?
Surprisingly, there is little, if any, immigration legislation I've seen. We had a very large day yesterday with with right to work and basically anti-labor union legislation in the Senate. There are some 1,200 steel workers and angry construction guys in hard hats coming in to testify on the bill, which really kind of blew them up. That was Wednesday. Let's talk about the immigration, what's basically a temporary restraining order on an executive order. I think the most important comment that came out of the Ninth Circuit appellate case was the following, where they basically said, it's not our job, the court's job, to rewrite your executive order so it's constitutional. I will talk about the process for a moment. I have dealt with executive orders with my Indian practice because we do most of our stuff with the federal government. So a president decides he or she wants to do something. They draft an executive order. That first step. The second step is it goes through the Department of Justice out to the agencies for agency comment. The third step is a return back to the president's office and then a hashing out of a final order. And the fourth step is dispersal of the order. The Trump administration had effectively short-circuited that process. They went to the White House counsel. They had folks from the House Judiciary Committee, House Republican members in Congress, that were helping them draft stuff. But in the hurry to get this order out, it had typos in it. I mean, it had glaring, superficial problems that speak to the competency of the people sending the order out. The issue before the court is one that, regardless of your own immigration status, whether you were born here or your parents brought you here, or you were born here and your parents are legal, is the following. When you're on the soil of the United States of America, regardless of your citizenship status, you are protected by the Constitution. You are entitled to those legal protections. The Trump administration overreached, in the court's opinion, by going after people who hold green cards. A green card has the same weight as a passport. It basically says, you are permitted to be here. We have already decided that you are okay to be here. So what you have to remember is not just Washington State. 15 states in the District of Columbia joined Washington. 100 high-tech companies, Google, Microsoft, M-Games, everybody in the whole tech industry has jumped in. And it may speak to a bigger problem about the number of kids that are not majoring in math and science in this country, that are not filling these high-tech spots. But for these businesses, the fact that we have a whole bunch of Indian, Pakistani, Indonesian, you name your country, where we have high-tech people that are competent in English that can work for a company tomorrow, these businesses want these workers to have free access in and out of the United States. And the executive order basically violates several constitutional principles, 3 of them on how the process is done, the overreach of the executive branch, 4 on categories of people that are protected. The administration has effectively tossed all of those aside, okay? And it's just argued one, national security. We get to pick and choose in here based on national security. And the answer is the Supreme Court will have to decide that in the next few weeks. Anyhow, that's our time.
Okay.
I hope that helps.
Yeah, that was great.
All right.
So I will see you in about 5 minutes. We'll just kind of mute you, put it on pause here, and you can talk to my next speaker for about 10 minutes or so.
I'm gonna send you a new link, okay?
Oh, okay, we can do that.
You guys have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.